So as you can see here on the DXY, we could trade up higher with that bullish order flow, but this could also be a liquidity grab above this high to trade down lower together with the bearish trend. So my name is Oscar Madison. In this video I'm going to do a weekly outlook for all of the pairs next week to see what trades we could catch. So starting off with the DXY, we are starting off from the weekly time frame, and we always go down from the weekly to the 4 hour to see what we're up to. So on the weekly we are bullish, we tap discount prices, we grab liquidity, tapped inside this demand zone, and then what happened? We changed bullish order flow. So the order flow now became bullish. Now we are inside this demand zone, and now we could just push up higher. So going over to the daily time frame though, you can see that this swing is bearish, which is also going to be the same swing as the 4 hour. We then, after breaking the structure, get a pullback towards premium prices, and from there we start to trade down lower. You also tap a supply zone and grab liquidity above this high, so that could mean extra confirmation to trade down lower to that swing low. Overall, the daily order flow is still bullish with this demand in control, and we could still trade up higher, but I think that we are also possibly going to trade down lower. So what am I going to do? Go over to the 4 hour to see what the order flow is, in order to see if we're going to trade up higher together with the daily order flow and the weekly order flow, or if we're going to trade down lower together with the 4 hour and daily trend, which is bearish. So going over to the 4 hour, like you can see, we are bearish and we've grabbed liquidity, now ready to trade down lower. Overall, we tapped this demand zone, and you can see that from that point the order flow changed bullish over here with this demand in control, so we could still trade up higher. So at the moment it is still possible that this was a liquidity grab, boom, in order to then fuel the next move down lower, break the order flow and just continue down lower to the swing low. Overall, I would view this as still an order flow switch. So what I'm waiting for is maybe the second break, and then I could confirm some upside, taking liquidity above the highs, or seeing the order flow switch bearish, and then I could look for shorts towards the swing low. That is, I think, my game plan for next week. Again, not the highest probability up or down, so I just gotta wait and be patient this week for the DXY. So going over to EURUSD on the weekly time frame, we are again bullish. We still didn't tap the discount prices, and we just have been trading up higher. Overall, after this liquidity, the order flow changed bearish, and we could continue to trade down lower, but we have a supply up higher with some liquidity as well above the highs. Again, we have a supply over here, so we could trade down lower towards the discount prices, but overall still very possible to take out the highs in order to trade towards that supply, and from there trade down lower. So again, then you scale over to the lower time frame to see what we're actually going to do. Now you can see that the daily is bullish. We tapped the discount prices, we grab liquidity, and we are inside this demand, which then caused us to have bullish order flow. At the moment, this demand is also in control, and as you can see, we could just continue to trade up higher towards the swing high. So that's also my game plan for next week on EURUSD, to just trade up higher, but then the 4 hour order flow also needs to be bullish as well. So it is quite tricky though, because DXY could trade up or down, which could make this pair also go up or down, whatever it wants to do. So you are 4 hour bullish, you tap discount prices, and then now, as you can see, the order flow here on the 4 hour is actually bearish. Why? Because this supply is in control. So what could happen is that we could continue this order flow to trade down lower, take out all of the liquidity, right? Trade down lower together with the weekly order flow, also this daily bearish order flow. Now if the 4 hour order flow turns bullish, I'm not yet going to long because you're still inside supply. This could be a liquidity grab above this high to then trade down lower. So I'm only going to look for longs after we break the supply. Then I'm going to look for those longs possible towards that 4 hour swing high. But overall, I'm going to be very patient, because for me, it could go up or down, and it's not the best trade to trade next week. GBPUSD, however, looks very good for downside in my opinion. Why is that? Well, first of all, you're weekly bearish, you are deeply inside premium prices, and you grabbed some liquidity. From that point, you then turned order flow bearish, almost grabbed liquidity at this low, but that didn't happen, and you created equal lows, meaning weak lows which we could take out. Now the order flow has switched bullish with this weekly fractal break towards the upside, but what I often see is a double break, liquidity grab above the high to then continue down lower, which for me totally makes sense with this swing structure. You are inside premium prices, you grab liquidity, and you have these weak lows, so it's still possible for me to trade down lower. So going over to the daily time frame, then look at that. The daily is also still swing bearish. You then grab liquidity above the high. Now you could just continue down lower because you're also inside premium prices. So for me, the daily also says to me that it could objectively trade down lower. On the 4-hour time frame, we are also 4-hour swing bearish. You grab liquidity above the high. Then what happened is you saw the early sellers get the fractal break. Boom, early sellers are in the market. Then you see another swipe, swiping the highs of the early sellers, hitting their stop loss. Then you trade down lower. You create this supply zone. What did I do? I decided to also enter on this stop loss above this safe high to trade down lower to maybe this liquidity, which I think looks like a very clean trade. Overall, I'm going to definitely, I think, make a trade breakdown on this one for next week on Saturday, but you guys see. At the moment, it still looks very clean for downside. So what I'm going to do next week is just look for continuation shorts. Let's say you break this fractal, you then create a new supply. Again, you could take short setups. So I'm only going to be looking for shorts next week, maybe until these liquidity lows, because then you could see a pullback, and then again you could go short maybe the week after that. But that's what we'll see next week. Then going over to EURAUD, I was looking for longs previous weeks, but price already decided to go up without hitting my demand. Let's show that. So weekly is bullish. We tapped inside discount prices perfectly over here, also this demand. Now I'm just looking for upside towards the swing high. On a daily time frame, you have kind of the same swing and also the same discount prices, same demand as well, which is pushing price up higher, and overall order flow is bullish. Now I was waiting for this demand to get hit in order to take longs, but that didn't happen, and we just decided to already trade up higher. Now you have this demand which is in control, but overall you now grab some liquidity, so I wouldn't be surprised to grab liquidity underneath this low, tap this demand, and then continue down up higher. So I'm also waiting for that. At the moment, I'm also going to go over to the 4-hour again to check if we're going to react from this demand, and then we could already take longs. If I do not see a reaction on the 4-hour, I would possibly look for longs from this demand zone. So what does that look like on the 4-hour? So on the 4-hour, we have a supply zone open with some liquidity. Doesn't really matter because overall you want to trade towards these swing highs, but still a nice target for just the near future. So as you can see, I was looking for this demand zone to trade up higher, but right now we already traded up higher and created this new demand. So at the moment, I'm looking at this liquidity to get taken out. And once we do that, I would like to see some breaks up in order to trade towards those highs and its supply. So that's my game plan on EURAUD. If I do not see any confirmation and we just see something like this, then I would like to see the order flow getting switched over here in order to then just trade the longs again towards the highs. Going over to GBPAUD, again also looks very valid to trade up higher. Not the best because you still have this demand open with liquidity over here. Let me explain why it's not the best yet, and your AD looks cleaner. You are weekly bullish, so that's good, but you still have discount prices open. Overall, it doesn't really matter because the order flow is still bullish and we could still continue up higher, maybe grab liquidity above this high and then continuing down lower towards the discount prices. Overall, we've tapped this demand zone over here, so we could continue up higher, but because we already grabbed liquidity above this high, I personally was looking to grab liquidity underneath the lows to fuel the next move up higher. At the moment, this demand zone is holding, so we could just continue to trade up higher. On the daily time frame, you're also bullish. You tap discount prices, you grab liquidity underneath the lows, and then the order flow also became bullish with this demand in control. So now you could already look for those longs from that demand zone, which is definitely possible. Overall, you still have this demand open on the weekly with all of these liquidity lows, and I wouldn't be surprised to see such kind of move. But then again, what do we wait for? Well, we wait for confirmation on the 4-hour to see how we react from this demand, to see if we're going to trade up higher from the demand or from the demand lower. So again, patience is key here. Nothing to see on the 4-hour. It's kind of the same as on the daily. But again, I would like to see at least some liquidity get taken out underneath all of these lows over here before I could take any long setups. But I will need to wait for a lot of confirmation because, yeah, like I said, we still have these lows open and the demand open. So one fractal break for me isn't enough because we could still see something like this in order to fuel the next move down lower. So going over to EURCAD on the weekly, we now broke swing high. So now we're swing bullish. Let me delete all of this. So let's see. We now just turned swing bullish here on the weekly time frame on EURCAD. So what I'm expecting is now in the near future just trade down lower to take liquidity underneath all of these lows, tap this demand. That's my game plan. At the moment the order flow is still bullish, so that's something I gotta keep in mind when trading. Going over to the daily, you can also see that the order flow is as well bullish. Your daily swing is over here, and if I take the PVD from the swing low all the way to the swing high, yeah, this perfectly aligns with the liquidity low over here. So I would like to see the order flow changed bullish, bearish in order to trade towards the discount prices as well as this demand and these liquidity lows. But first we gotta wait for the order flow to change bearish, and that's going to take a long time, I think, so not for next week. At the moment, you can see again here on the 4 hour as well, the 4 hour order flow is also bullish. You have this demand open over here. You broke the swing structure into the upside. So what am I waiting on? Well, waiting for the fractal to turn bearish in order to possibly take a short towards this demand zone and this liquidity, because from here you could still trade up higher together with the weekly order flow, but we could also continue down lower towards all of these lows which I explained on the weekly and daily. But this is the move that we're sure of, right? Or at least which is the highest probability to take the short towards this demand, because from the demand you could trade up higher or lower. So I'm looking to trade that short towards the demand because it's still valid. Looking at the higher time frame, you took liquidity and we could now just continue to trade down lower. So that's what I'm going to be trading. On GBPCAD, we have just been trading up higher. Unfortunately, we're not inside of this trade, which I think I made a wrong decision by not taking it. So let's also explain that. Above this high weekly, we turned bullish weekly, and now you could see a pullback towards discount prices, but overall the order flow is still bullish, so you could still continue to trade up higher towards these prices. So here's also a difference between order flow and fractals. The order flow is bullish, you then turned fractal bearish, but the order flow is still bullish. So that's just a liquidity grab to continue up higher. That's why these longs were also so beautiful as well. So going over to the daily time frame, the daily is bullish. You then have this swing high, which we're about to break. We trade in towards this demand, grab this liquidity, and here were those beautiful longs. We then broke the order flow bullish with this demand in control, didn't have a pullback, so we couldn't take any longs. Now I'm waiting for a pullback in towards this demand, and then I'm looking to take those long setups. I don't know if that's going to happen. For now it looks like we're just going to trade up higher, so it's definitely not going to be for this week. I might take some short setups if we break the swing high and then get some double breaks towards the downsides, and I'll trade towards the discount prices, and from there I'll definitely take longs again. So that's my game plan for GBPCAD. At the moment, a lot of pairs are not really optimal inside their best point of interest, but we are just looking for what we could see, and we just need to be patient. So going to the JPY basket, I am looking for upside, but the order flow on a weekly is bearish. So let me show that. The weekly structure is bearish. We tapped premium prices, we grabbed some liquidity, now we could trade down lower. Overall order flow is bullish, but internally we have bearish order flow, so we might just grab liquidity underneath this low and then fuel up higher towards these liquidity highs and then trade down lower. But everything could happen for me. We have highs open, we have a supply open, we are bearish, we could continue down lower. So I'm waiting this one out at the moment on the weekly, so I'm just trying to catch the small moves on the 4 hour. On the daily time frame, you're daily bullish, you tapped discount prices, and you could definitely continue up higher, right? So we then grab some liquidity in these lows, we possibly swipe the early buyers, the order flow changed bullish with this demand now in control, and now you could continue up higher. Again, one order flow change is not enough because this again could be a liquidity grab to fuel the next move down lower towards that demand, which is still open. So I'm not yet sure of those longs. Going over to the 4-hour, we are 4-hour bearish, but overall you still have the premium prices open. This is your order flow. So I would, or at least on the daily time frame, so I would like to see the daily order flow again get a second break to then look for longs again. So that's also my play, to trade towards these premium prices with these liquidity highs open. From there we could then again look for shorts or highs. That's what we're up to for that week. But at the moment the order flow is bullish here on the 4-hour as well, but I'm not yet looking for longs because I first want to see the order flow on the daily become twice bullish. Okay, so going over to euro yen, on the weekly time frame, we are bearish and we are inside supply. So this is our structure and we are inside the supply zone, so we could trade down lower. On the daily time frame, you did exactly the same with the structure and the supply, but you grabbed some liquidity and the order flow changed bearish with this supply now in control, and we could trade down lower. On the 4-hour, you're also 4-hour structure wise bearish, so you could again look for downside. You also have those premium prices, you tapped supply, you grab liquidity above the high, so definitely looks very clean for downside. You then changed the order flow bearish, so there were beautiful shorts here previous week. If I then look at the current order flow, which is going to be this last supply zone, well, right over here, you can also see that we're trading inside of it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look on the lower time frame to see if we could catch some short setups towards this swing low. If that doesn't happen and we just trade up higher, we might grab liquidity. Then I want again to change the order flow bearish on the 4-hour before I look for any short setups. Otherwise we could continue up higher with a weird yen basket, even though that everything aligns here on euro yen itself. So going over to GBP yen, on the weekly, you are also bearish, you are inside this supply and you grab liquidity above the high, so we were looking for downside. The order flow flipped bearish after breaking this high, but overall the order flow is now bullish with this demand in control. We could see a little pullback to then trade up higher again, or we could just continue to trade down lower. So on the daily time frame, you can also see that we have an open supply zone over here, which is definitely something where we could trade towards. Your order flow is bullish with this demand in control, which also took some liquidity underneath this low, but at the moment this demand could just continue to trade us up higher towards that supply, and from there shorts. So at the moment I'm also still waiting to see what's up. I think shorts from the supply are definitely the best. I'm still waiting this one out to see if longs are possible. If the yen basket shows us signs that we could trade down lower, then longs might be also good here on GBP yen. On the 4-hour time frame, I think we turned bullish. Let's see. So this is your swing high, and yeah, we turned bullish. Then we gotta take the PVD from the swing low towards the swing high, and as you can see, around that price point you have a demand zone right over here with these liquidity lows underneath the lows, right? So what I would wait for is to just see, so basically we're swing bullish, but we could see a pullback towards these discount prices, or at least this demand with that liquidity, and the order flow also flipped bearish with this supply and control. So shorts are definitely also valid here on GBP yen, but I gotta see if the yen basket wants to trade up higher, because then we could see some downside. Definitely looks good to take liquidity at the lows, and then I gotta see next week if longs are possible, because your 4-hour swing bullish, your order flow on the daily and weekly is bullish, so you could see longs. Overall I would trade small setups because I'm not sure in the long term what we could do with these pairs, with these yen pairs, and also I gotta see what the yen basket do to see if we could take long. So if I want to take a long setup, the yen basket needs to be ready in order to take shorts. Going over to gold on the weekly time frame, again very bullish, so just looking for longs overall on the weekly. Then on the daily time frame you're bullish as well. This is very far away, so I don't really look at the structure, I just know overall we could trade up higher. We have been consolidating, but at the moment you're also inside this demand, and we could just continue to trade up higher towards a swing high. So that's my vision for gold. You're also for our swing bullish here. You grab liquidity, need the lows, grab liquidity, boom, grab liquidity, boom. Now you have seen that over here you broke the high, you grab liquidity at low, boom, but then over here you failed to break the high, right? And you traded down lower, but you also failed to break the low, and then you trade up higher, but then you also failed to break this high. So now, in my opinion, we could see like maybe a liquidity grab underneath all of the lows before moving up higher, or we just trade up higher. So overall I'm looking for upside, and the reason that I mentioned that we failed to break these highs could mean that we could need some fuel underneath the lows in order to fuel up higher. But overall we have also been respecting all of the lows, so it could also be that we also just respect the lows in order to trade towards a swing high. So that's all possible. Again, what do we gotta do? We gotta wait for confirmation. So on the 4 hour we swiped this no, which also meant that this supply is in control then, which is also on the daily time frame. So I gotta see this daily order flow turn bullish in order to take possible longs. If that doesn't happen and we just trade down lower, again we could grab liquidity at the lows, then I'm looking for longs, and these are A+ longs to trade up higher. But we gotta see if we're already going to take longs over here or maybe underneath the lows. So that was it for today, guys. I hope you guys could trade some possible trade setups next week, and good luck with that. See ya. Ciao.